All right, here we are. We are live, my friends. Welcome to the Crypto Junkie channel. I'm just looking at the stream here, make sure everything's all right. We will be having a couple guests with us tonight, and I see that a ton of people from Discourse is already coming over, so welcome, guys. I was on the stream last week. I saw many of you, so welcome to the stream. So today we've actually got quite a bit to cover. I don't really know how long it's going to take us to get through everything, but there's a lot of important things that need to be discussed, right? Like part of my whole idea with coming back to Crypto Junkies and really like when Kinetics and I were talking about doing this and coming back is like we decided that there was like real issues that needed to be tackled, right? Because if you look around the crypto space, and we've talked about this now video after video, but in case you're brand new here, let's recap, right? There's a ton of people who've made money already in the crypto space, like crypto influencers, Twitter guys, YouTube guys, whatever, right? And if you look around, we're not really seeing anything that's really changed, right? Like some of them might be working towards good purposes and good intentions and starting different projects and trying to move things in a positive direction. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a whole lot of bottles being bought. I'm seeing a whole lot of virgins who have never really had access to women, a social life, or friends that are still like, and if we look at this in terms of like a timeline or maybe like an emotional scale, right? We can go horizontal or vertical, doesn't matter. Is like they're way down here or way over here. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all, but it's just like, in your life, you're going to experience certain things. And for some people, like the club scene and buying tables and getting access to things that they didn't have access to before, men, women, whatever, like that's brand new for them. And so there's like a ton of people that are in that spot. I'm seeing that. And I'm seeing a lot of people that made their money and ran. And what I'm not seeing is a lot of people who've made money and said, okay, let's dig our feet in now and let's get to work. Right. And that's really the stuff that needs to be discussed. That's really the stuff that we really need to start looking at. Right. So I've got quite a bit that I want to share tonight. I want to talk about some of these initiatives going around. Like right now, there's this campaign. It's called Team Seas. And this is a two-pronged approach to the problem with plastics and whatnot in the ocean. And then we're going to talk about like the overarching umbrella here and frame is centralization versus decentralization. Because that's really the next big frontier. Like what's happening now is we've got all of these monopolies, oligarchs, whatever you want to call them, right? However you want to label them. And they have positioned themselves well, and they have created very deep offer stacks. And this is from the banking industry all the way to social media, right? In every single possible microcosm you can think of, this has occurred, right? And these people have been very, very busy buying up billion-dollar companies over, I guess you could say, over expensive and overspent on companies and built out their offer stacks. And these are the players that are now positioned to have influence on crypto and to really like push things in the next direction. Like you would have never thought that rebranding Facebook to the word Meta would have meant so much, but here we are, right? And so these big players they represent really the centralization. And they're buying up and grabbing up all this real estate, right? And they're going to be the ones that are going to be making, or they think that are going to be making a lot of the rules and whatnot. And when we look around, there is still all of these issues that need to be addressed, right? And so we look at the infrastructure bill, which is a great example. That started off at a $3.5 trillion bill, right? Now, how much of that had to do with infrastructure, and how much of that had to do with lining pockets, right? So like that right there should tell you a bulk of what needs to be discussed. We need to be talking about like alternative energy. We need to be talking about things that actually lead to solutions. And the only person that seems to be talking about like these big scary concepts is Elon Musk. And Elon Musk's solution is that we should just say, fuck Earth, and we just go to Mars and we just do the same thing there. Like, are we not going to have plastic on Mars? Are we going to like come up with something better? Are we going to come up with some way to use that as energy? I don't think so. So it's like it's the same issue, right? That we're just going to go and duplicate over there. So his solution is like we're going to destroy this planet, and that's okay, and then we'll just go to another one and do the same there, right? So I've got We got RG3 on too. Okay, so I got basically all the boys from Discord Syndicate, and you guys were already talking about some of this. I chimed in late, so I just saw the digital asset felony, I guess, coded in and hidden into the infrastructure bill. So I think we'll talk about that. But yeah, I kind of want to take us through a conversation about this centralization versus decentralization. And then finally, I think our first big move as crypto junkies to be back, something that we can get involved in together, is this project that I want to talk about, right? And so, yeah, let's bring them all on. We've got Kinetics. Let's add him in. What is up, my friend?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Glad excellent.
Thanks for having me. When we started this discussion not too many days ago about freedoms and how decentralization could be that key to those freedoms and taking away the power from the power brokers, being brought to my attention, some of the things that are being worked on in this world actually take a lot of the money out of the hands of the power brokers and put it back in the hands of the small guys, as well as the political infrastructure. And so I'm excited to have that discussion with you today, because I think there's literal action steps that we can take going forward here, and we've got allies within the space. So I'm excited to research and to expand our horizons in the way of getting these people on the same page as us, and moving forward together as not just as a industry that is crypto, but also as people who want their sovereign rights back and taken back from the people who have taken it from them, i.e. their governments and the people at the top who control those governments.
I agree, man. And basically, like, I think, like, I've written over 500 emails now, macro emails, right? And we've done a lot with Empire and the different like brands that I've got. I just like the biggest struggle I've had over the last 3-4 years is that you get into these like phases, and I kept catching myself doing it, where I would get into the research phase and I'd go deeper and deeper down new rabbit holes, right? And ever since, the election results, I mean, there's like 50, 60 new rabbit holes you can dig down. Yeah. And the thing that I figured out is that like the more I dig down these rabbit holes, I'm not actually coming up with actionable solutions. I'm not coming up with anything that's tangible, anything that moves my life forward. And you get caught up in the analysis paralysis, which is where you're just kind of mentally masturbating about all this fan fiction, like Richard Hart says, and all these different concepts of like what ifs. And before you know it, you got yourself all worked up, and you can't even focus on like your work, your job, your money. And I know a ton of people like this right now. I'm actually speaking about a specific avatar, which fits a wide demographic of people. And it's just like, you got to pull yourself back out of that. And I've done that now like 3-4 times since probably the election. I've noticed myself doing it. And I've been very vocal about this too, because when I fall down the rabbit hole, I kind of point at it and laugh in different ways, right, to like my community. And so I think you got to get past we're all talking about it. We're all complaining about it on social media. Like we see it. It's like everyone's still kind of like pointing at it like, man, can you believe they're doing this? And it's like, yes, I can.
Yes.
And then, like, what are we going to now do about it? How about we talk about the doing phase, right? And I feel like there's a huge chunk of people all across America, especially, that's who I'm talking to right now, is that like you're still stuck in the I've got to know all the information phase. You don't understand, Jay. I've got to keep digging into whatever little niched area you found. And I'm here to tell you, you don't, because you've probably got more information than like 99% of people. Yeah. And you're probably so far deep in that rabbit hole that people can't converse or relate to you anymore.
They can't relate. They haven't done the research that you've done.
We need to relax. We need to pull it back a little bit. And then also too, we need to put our attention and action into something that can move the needle forward.
Yep.
Right? Because there's been a lot of changes and there's been a lot of shifts. So let's bring on Wales real quick. Wales is brand new to the stream. Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to have you. In case you didn't know, he's like a merge between Denzel Washington with the swearing, not quite as bad, of Samuel Jackson. So, but he's like a macroeconomic guy. So it's like you're hearing it, and you're like, what is going on? I like it because he's talking my language and he's really smart.
Yes.
So I'm excited to have him on.
I appreciate that. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. Because last week was the first time I was on stream with you, and so I was like, I started kind of formulating this then.
All right.
All right, and let me bring on the captain, RG3. Welcome to the party, sir.
We need to have the gentleman that helped steer the ship in our community, so we're glad to
and
have
these guys are
today.
Yeah, these guys are huge in the Discord Syndicate.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Which that community in and of itself, like, that's kind of why we all got started, right? Like, they got started in 2017. A lot of us did, maybe some of them before then, and we all got super excited about this crypto thing because we were like the edge of the spear. We were the early adopters, right? Like early adopters used to mean like you go and get the latest iPhone, right? But it doesn't really mean that anymore. Like the early adopter now is like the guy who's, I'd argue he's like the guy getting into NFTs. But I digress. So the early adopters are now, and they have been over the last couple of years, like, people getting into crypto and like going all in, not quitting their job because they think they're going to get rich off crypto, but going all in on understanding it, right, and diving into that. So going back to the topic of like, okay, we've got all this information. What do we do with it? You need to be able to do something and move forward. Like if we look at the last 2 years, and this is probably by far the best panel I could have to talk about this stuff, is the last 2 years have been interesting because what have we seen? Well, we saw that our vote really doesn't matter because if you're in the United States, you know that to some degree there's election fraud. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what color you want to abide by, blue or red. It doesn't matter, right? It's just another form of division. It's another illusion of choice, okay? So we can all agree, though, that something weird happened, right? And they've now proved it, but I don't even know if anyone cares because everyone was so burnt out by the end of it because mainstream media did an amazing job of getting us all to hate each other and hate even listening to news that I think by now most people, unless again you're deep in the dirt, just throw up their hands and don't care, right? So we've now proven that our vote really doesn't matter. So we went from like, yes, you as one person matter to we got real world results that it kind of didn't. We're seeing them completely change and rewrite history, whether it's Wikipedia or any other form of censorship that I'm sure every single person on this live stream has experienced, saw, witnessed firsthand, proof of that happening. So we've seen like the suppression of voices, self-censorship, like it will even self-censor on this channel because like we have to watch what we say because otherwise YouTube and whatnot will do something about that on this channel. So we've seen now that like our voice is being suppressed. So it's like, what else do we really have left? Well, we can vote with our dollars and we can vote with our attention like we always could have, right? And those things are now obviously way more important than they were before because we've kind of tried to do it the legit way and the way that everyone told us to do it, and that didn't really work. And so now it's time for us to get aggressive about where we're putting our attention, focus, and money, right?
I find this funny because I'm sorry, because now all of a sudden that this happened to white folks, it's important, and it just happened. It didn't just happen. This has been going on for hundreds of years. They've taken our vote away. They've taken our rights away. They've taken our religions away. They've taken away all of our freedoms for years. And now it just happened to white folks in the last few years. And now it's an outrage. I'm really fucking surprised that we're talking like this because this is something that has not just come up. This has been going on.
Yeah, I mean, look, my house was tapped when I was a kid. And we're talking about the 90s, right? And I lived in the Bronx.
But now it is something to be concerned about. It is something to be concerned about. But it's not new. That's for goddamn shit.
It's not new.
I would argue that it's not new, but what's funny and what's interesting about it is, everyone that is acting like this is new over the last couple of years to watch their behaviors of how they
because it's happening to people that it's never happened to before.
Correct.
That's what's happening right now.
Which is the majority of the population of this country.
Because it's happening to people that it hasn't happened to before. This shit's been going on for a long time. Let
me tell you guys something. Up until 2020, I was a loner that was crazy, talked to himself, da-da-da-da-da-da. As of 2020, I'm a god.
Yeah, you're a genius now.
I've been talking about this shit for 20 years, guys. 20 years plus. I'm 37. I've been seeing this since I was a kid because nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Nothing. How do we pay? I mean, hell, I live in New York, right? Yeah. So in New York, you're using public transportation all the time. Now, I was born and raised here, so I've seen the progression of the transportation system in the city, along with the progression in the hikes of the fares that you have to pay in order to use that public transportation system. Now, what you don't see is the progression in the improvements of the infrastructure over time. The trains still do not run on time. The trains still suck, no matter how new they are. So where's our money going? Well, when you look at the books, you'll see that the MTA, which is not a public entity. There's a private entity. Has about 42 billion in debt. Billion with a B.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is just New York City public transportation I'm talking about. And this was 42 billion as of last year. I don't even know where it's at now, because you can rest assured they've kept borrowing because of Rona. Of course, it's been a free-for-all since 2020 for all of those that can pull and plug and walk away with a bucket from the spigot.
In chaos, they steal.
That's right.
When there's chaos, they steal. There's
100%.
lots of stealing going on.
Yeah, I just heard about the MTA stuff recently. I can't remember. I think I learned about it from a YouTuber who was like showing photos.
Because a lot of these things belong to poor people.
The nation.
A lot of people
I never lived in New York.
But here's the thing, Jay. I can't guarantee you, no matter where you live in this country, the formulae is the exact same. Overbloated, under taken care of infrastructure. Undermanaged infrastructure, right? I mean, and this is just one facet of our society that I'm talking about. Just one.
In California, they saw what was going on in New York and said, "Oh, there's a money grab right there." So what did they do? We've never had public transportation. Now all of a sudden there's this big public transportation push out here, and it's all worthless. Our public transportation out here is worthless, and they're stealing from that too. It's getting overbloated. And just we're doing the same thing New York did,
which is why I think it's like a meme, the infrastructure bill, right? Like they've got to be just trolling 100%. At this point, because they're like, we all know that the actual infrastructure is fucked.
It's money grab. It's money grab.
But there's nothing about real infrastructure in this bill.
Not at all.
There's like the most improvements that we've seen. So the important thing in California is the freeways. The freeways are of utmost importance. The whole public transportation thing is bullshit. The bus system, this new rail system that they're putting out here is just bullshit. The freeways are what the main arteries of California. And what have they done to it? They've sold it off to private entities that now have these things we call fast track out here. So they've squeezed my freeways where I drive on even smaller, so that you have to go pay to go over there and operate on a private freaking road now. And the fees are insane. To go 20 miles, it's going to cost you about $30 over here to get to my house. What? That ain't no joke. $30 in your car on a public highway that they sold to private companies.
Yep.
What in the fuck?
20 miles, guys. 20 miles, and it's going to cost you $30.
I can kind of speak to one of the biggest problems that is affecting the entire globe, which is power. You know, I'm out in Asia, and I can tell you guys, I pay probably double, triple, maybe even 4x what you guys pay for power, and it's worse. So how the fuck is that possible? So there's not a grid issue out here. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the hub, they've got the way to, the means to do it. But what I pay and the size of the housing out here too is really small. So as soon as I started converting this to actual square footage, my house is like maybe 400 or 500 square foot in equivalence, right? Like the actual area that I'm trying to cool down, because it's hot as fuck here all the time, right? And the rate that I pay is $300 to $500 a month.
Whoa.
So do the fucking math on that, on how much that actually is per square foot to cool down. It's insane.
So now let's backtrack just a moment to history.
Sure.
So we didn't in the 50s, in the 40s and 50s, after they started built the great development of the country in the 30s happened, and the great rebuild and all that good stuff. What has happened since then? So we had a lot of infrastructure put in place. We got the highway systems. We got all these things done during the Great Reconstruction, and America was doing great. Humans had great jobs. They had great retirements. Everybody was able to buy a house. It was the American dream.
They had a based fiat.
They had a based fiat. But on top of that, now that's not the only thing that's happened. And we're screaming decentralization, decentralization, decentralization. Now here's that part where everybody calls me a commie and all this other stuff. Centralization works in some things, and it worked back then for infrastructure. And now we've privatized a lot of things, and these things are failing because of the privatization, because we got people dipping their hands in a honeypot and not providing services to people, and they're screwing us. And that's what's going on with infrastructure. Like I said, my freeway system is owned by private companies now. There's private companies out here that own it, and they fucked it up. They've screwed up they've made the traffic worse, and they're charging exorbitant amounts of money for people to travel on them.
Yeah.
So we keep screaming decentralization, but at what point do we find some type of a happy medium where we can get back to good, where countries actually run properly? Because look, we can't throw our hands up, like you said, and say, fuck it, let's just have a war and we'll call it anarchy. That's not how this works. No. And I keep telling you guys that we can't just say fuck the whole thing like Elon Musk and say, fuck it, we'll go move to another, planet. What are we going to do to fix this place? What are we going to do to put the things back in place that worked for our country, that have worked here in the past, so that we don't have the shit that we have today? Because some of this is because of decentralization, guys. Don't ever forget that. You can't decentralize everything and then trust everyone that's running that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a couple things happened at the same time. There was too many private companies getting involved. And I see it as like two main pieces, right? To put it simply, is private companies started getting too involved, and government started moving away from what its core ethos was supposed to be. It wasn't really supposed to have a lot of the roles that it did, and it took on roles that it wasn't good at. And then it gave up on some things that it probably should have stuck around on and offered that to private companies instead. And so we had these two things happening while like the career of a politician completely was pivoting at the same time because lobbying was getting big. So all this was kind of happening at the same time, which kind of created that division, which now, we track that all these years later is at the very heart of the issue, right? Of what we're up against.
Private industry has always innovated better. Has always innovated better.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. And part of the problem that we've run into is, yes, these private companies are taking over some of this infrastructure because, as Jay just said, the public entities, the federal government, does fuck all in the way of actually making sure these people are providing the service that they're being paid to do. They're just guaranteeing a check to these private companies without any kind of making sure that they're actually providing the service. But what the problem is that the government set that precedent. Try getting good customer service at the DMV.
Exactly.
They aren't good at it. The federal government is not good at that. So how are they going to be the ones to regulate whether the private companies that they're making sure they're guaranteeing checks for are doing are providing a good customer service for the people of this country?
They can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's a good example of how private industry could come in and fix a situation. Hey, you know what? I got the private DMV here. I'm going to go and I'm going to operate within the law, the confines of the DMV, and the DMV can regulate me, but I'm going to offer people a service. You come in, you pay your $15 or whatever, and I'm going to take care of everything. You're not going to stand in line. I'm just going to verify you, and boom, I'm going to get your shit done for you.
And I think getting the roadblocks out of the way for new entrants into the market is key to that, because then you've got people that can come in and say, hey, I can provide a better service, I can provide it faster, and I can probably even scale it so I can provide it cheaper. And then these companies have to actually argue or actually have to compete for between customers as to who is going to come be their customer. So then you've got it's the best of both worlds. Costs go down for the consumer, the actual product gets better, and we don't have these megalithic companies that can just say, screw it, I've got the monopoly on the economy here, and I can just provide the service I want at the price that I want, and I don't even have to provide customer service. Try getting customer service on the phone with Google.
Try finding the phone number. Try finding the phone number.
Exactly right.
For any credit card. Any credit card too.
Great example of that too, Captain. I agree 100%.
And that's what you need. You need service providers. You need private industry to do that, because when you get a fat cat and government employee that's making a good money that just doesn't care about their job, then they don't provide that type of service. But when you do have people that are in a competitive situation, companies are in a competitive situation, you have entrepreneurs that are managerial focused, that want to build a better company that's providing a better service to get more customers. That's when you get that quality of service. And you're not going to get that from somebody who just makes a paycheck, whether they fuck you over today or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. First off, shout out to the chat. You guys, we got people fired up. From what I can see, is people are fired up, and like this is what these topics do, right?
And I'm an old guy, and I just want, I love the fire in you young people. I love it, man. I love to see you guys are questioning authority. Fuck you guys. Fuck everything. Let's fix this shit. I get it, man. And I had a fire in my belly when I was a kid too, and I ran into those walls. And I got beat down and beat down and beat down, and I've become like weary, and so I love that fire, but I do have something that you guys don't have, and that's wisdom of watching the cycles go round and round and round, and history, and seeing what it's done into my life personally. Look, I was in the Marine Corps. That's as socialistic as it gets, but the Marine Corps works, and it's worked for this country for hundreds of years. So I don't look at these things in a black and white situation. You can't say that everything that's centralized or everything that's government is bad or wrong or isn't going to help. Or do
I agree. Their role should just be smaller and more focused to actually provide value.
And we've got to get money out of politics first and foremost. Until we get that single thing done, we're all just going to sit here and circle jerk each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we brought up earlier, right? How is it? Or this is right at the end of the stream we were just doing, Jay. So check this out. I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but most recently passed federal election campaign laws now allow for offshore entities to contribute to politicians. Financially.
So now we as U.S. citizens, meaning the elite, don't even own our country. It's the elite outside of our country that own it. And the laws, and they get to tell you what to fucking do because they could put some money in it from offshore, from anybody. Anybody can do it now. Anybody.
Which is absolutely insane. And that's how about we pivot? How about we pivot at this point? Let's pivot into what I'd love is because I know you guys are just diving into this, and I just pulled this up like before we jumped on. Wales, do you mind giving us a summary of what's going down in this? I heard about this early on, right? Like there's this little secret stuff added in on the infrastructure bill, which they were trying to pass to basically get any kind of exchange, central exchange, decentral exchange, anybody that like handled a transaction to any capacity, they would all of a sudden have to basically do KYC AML to try and get a backlog of any personal data they could from everyone transacting with their tool or product, which would be impossible. But is that what this is, or has anything changed?
No, nothing's really changed. It's basically that and worse, because now what they've added is that if you receive, like, as a matter of fact, give me a second. If you scroll down to where, hold on. The right at the top where it says this is not.
Yep.
This is not the so-called broker provision. If you read that, you can read that out loud and you'll see that's really the latest piece.
Okay, this is not the so-called broker provision that attracted public opposition when the infrastructure bill was waiting to be approved by the Senate. This is a separate provision, an amendment to tax code section 60501, and it requires certain recipients of digital assets valued over $10,000 to report the sender's name, address, and social security number to the government. Which we know exactly what this is, right? This is just basically their way to swoop in and stop like everyday people from making money in crypto.
Correct.
Because God forbid we all start to get together with a shitload of money to make change. They don't want that. Exactly. They don't want that. No. We can't have that. The elite's got to keep their power. You know, we need a queen and a king for a reason, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, in the UK anyway.
So again, right? Well, this is complete bullshit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, completely unenforceable, completely anything, right? So it's about understanding what their objective is. Their objective is control. At the end of the day, the way to control you is by controlling your mind and making you think that this shit matters. It does not.
Yeah.
No matter what they write on paper, they can suck a dick. You know, honestly, it doesn't matter, because what are they going to come do? Put a cage on your keyboard that you can't uncage?
Yeah. Well, this is a gotcha too, because
it is.
Like we said, it's like they're not going to be able to enforce this.
No, it's.
But if they want to get somebody, they can use this law to go get somebody
at a later date, at the time of their choosing.
This isn't going to be for everybody. Everybody's under scrutiny and all this stuff. What's going to happen is This is going to be the gotcha. And who knows who's going to be the gotcha, but they're going to be able to use this law against somebody who's moving cryptocurrencies back and forth peer to peer, like you said, for political action committees or whatever it may be. If they're not reporting it, then they're going to go after somebody with this law.
So Hex Monkey's got a great point. He says no actionable. What did he say? No actionable steps yet discussed 30 minutes into the stream. And that's true, because this revelation of what they're trying to slide into the infrastructure bill has just thrown us off of our game, because now the topic has obviously pivoted towards this. But there is actionable items that we can do from here, guys. This is the beauty of this. So we have found an ally within the space, a company called Mad Energy, who is literally decentralizing the energy industry, where they're going to get rid of the need to keep up an infrastructure, the billions and billions of dollars it takes to run power lines everywhere. They've literally solved that. And they've got a free market enterprise solution for this. So there's companies like this out there that are trying to do good, that are going to be shut down by the powers that be if we don't not only throw support behind them. But the nice thing about these guys is they are political powerhouses and legal powerhouses. So all of you Hexicans out there who like that CoinMarketCap is being sued, this is the same legal team behind them that is behind us right now trying to sue CoinMarketCap for the gatekeeping. So they are Hexicans through and through, and they have offered us the ability to, or the opportunity to, tag team with them and create a political action committee and also a grassroots political movement going forward. So there are actionable steps going forward here, guys. And it goes back to what Jay was saying, is we need to vote with our money.
Hey, Finbear nailed it, bro. Finbear just nailed it. So everyone send 10K and Hex to your congressman and make them criminal on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So we hold them all, and then when the time comes for us to get a vote somewhere, we pull that out, right?
135 of them or so. I can't
remember. You know what? That's actually not a bad
crack on a corpse.
It's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea.
It's a great idea, because guess what? They're going to cash that check, baby. I'll tell you that right now. They're going
to scrap that amendment in no time.
100%. So let's cover something now that everyone's saying in the chat, right? So I just sent you a link. I want you guys to check that out, because what we've basically done is like this. I threw this together, and essentially you guys could go and invest in Mad Energy right now by yourself, right? We're not gonna try and like hide that fact. All we ask is that instead you go through us and we pool everyone together. And so basically on this page, you just go, name, email, phone number if you like, that's optional. And then somebody from the Mad Energy team is going to reach out to you guys, and they're going to be able to keep track of everybody that we're sending there. Because what we want is a bunch of people to just come in, because you can get started now with retail, right? Instead of being a accredited investor, and you can start with as little as $500. So let's come back to that though, because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. So the big question that everyone's got is, okay, if this stuff is so good, if there's like this conglomerate or these like big energy players, first we start thinking, okay, maybe they're corrupt themselves, right? Or maybe they're just playing both left and right. Then we start to think, well, if they're that big, we think that way, right? But if they're small, we think, well, this guy's just going to go missing. And we've seen this. Funny enough, well, not funny enough, but interestingly enough, I was talking to my dad a couple of days ago, and he was telling me this story about how he was ready to buy into this thing. This guy out west had come up with a way to change salt water into regular drinking water at a mass scale, and he was going to do this huge rollout. It was like one guy, right? And this is definitely going against whatever you want to call it, big tech, big government. And the day that he was supposed to launch, he was going to like go out and somehow have this like coordinated and launched in like 1,000 cities or something, or 1,000 locations. And the guy went missing the day before. So let's not kid ourselves. Like that does happen. That has happened. You know, Nikola Tesla came up with the first electric vehicle in the early 1900s. Where the fuck did that go? We're like 2020, and we're praising a guy who uses the Tesla name, who's not Tesla. He's very far from Tesla. But he's using that name and trading on that name as he's some sort of genius, which that's to be figured out at some point. The fact that like some of his Bitcoin commentary has me a little nervous and concerned.
A little.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so like we got this guy trading on Tesla's name, but the real Tesla, Nikola Tesla, had over 500 patents. A lot of the stuff he was working on was truly revolutionary. Like the Tesla Tower that was Wardenclyffe that got torn down and never finished. Well, to kind of create a parallel, and I can talk about this because I've seen it now in their materials and stuff, is they've actually got the technology to make Tesla towers. And from what I hear, I can't confirm or deny, is that they've actually already got at least the first one built. So this is actually a group of people that are coming from all spectrums, political, energy, power sectors. They've got over, I think, 20 years of experience in this space. These guys have now all came together, and they don't have the tech. What they're doing instead is they're just allowing people who, like this guy who disappeared, that was going to turn salt water into drinking water and help solve that problem, because they're like, drinking water is still an issue for 1.2 billion people on this planet today, right now. So yeah, like that guy went missing. They are just facilitating for all of these people to come to them with like the crazy guys like that who disappeared. Instead of that, they're starting to attract those people and allow those people to come in to work with them, so they get like the protection that they need, from a physical protection as well as a legal protection against these elites, entities, whatever you want to label them, Illuminati, who cares? It doesn't matter at this point, right? But to kind of like kibosh that, because that was one of my big concerns. Like, that is the first two things they're going to think of, is if they're small, they're going to go away. If they're too big, well, maybe they're not your friend anyway. And maybe they're already like bought out and paid for and on the dark side, whatever, right? But I will say, from like everything that I've personally dug into, like this is the first project we've talked about since like, what, 2018, when we were doing, paid for play with ICO shills on this channel. So just to give you guys context, like this is like the first big thing that I want to sink my teeth into. Because again, I'm the guy who, just like a lot of you, was like, okay, we're talking. Even like somebody just pointed out, we're 30 minutes in, where the fuck is the solutions? Well, here's one right here. Now, I'm not saying this is going to fix everything. I don't know. I don't even know if this is really going to work long term. I don't care though. I know that this is the closest thing that gets me excited. Like I'm so fired up inside about this, because this is the closest thing that I've now seen to an actual solution. Not a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, not the president, the fake infrastructure bill, not the sitting president of the UN. Let's pull this up real quick, just for a little parallel. Is the guy who runs the UN said that Elon Musk should donate 2% of his wealth, which is a couple $1 billion. I think it ends up to be like $6 billion, right? And that would cure world hunger. That would cure starvation around the world. But let's not forget that they want these countries to starve. Like Africa is the way it is today because they fucking want it to be that way.
Correct.
Right? They don't want it to be what it should be. Right? The birthplace of humanity. Like we want to talk about some fucking lies. We could go on that. Yeah. We could go real deep down that rabbit hole about we'll just leave that. We'll leave that.
Yeah,
okay?
There's a whole lot of lies on that one, Jay.
So, but my point is that like Elon Musk came back and just said, hey, you know what? I'm totally down to do this as long as you guys are fully audited, and happened to post a link about, hey, what happened here? And it was one of many, let's just call abuse cases against people that are underage that should not be having abuse cases against them. So the UN is riddled with issues, just like every single 3-letter or other agency around the world. The WHO, the UN, they're all the same. All they care about is control, right? So we are like, it is a tall order, right? Like even something like this, like look at everything they're working on, which we look at the top 4 and the bottom 4. Like hey, that is.
Jay, can you take Hicks Monkey's comment off the screen real quick?
Oh yeah.
Distracting at this point. So
yeah.
Just click on anyone else's and then take it off real quick.
Okay. There we go.
Well, you got to take that one off now.
Boom. There it is.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So this is it, guys. Like again, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I'm super excited about this. I'm going to be digging my heels in on this.
So if anyone knows Jay, this guy goes deep into his research, and we probably won't see him for the next 2 months. He will be head buried in every rabbit hole he can go down, every one of these technologies and what can be done. And by the way, I just want to throw this out there, guys, right now. I've already reached out to this team about this infrastructure bill and the new section tax code for the IRS. So I've already reached out to them to see what political leanings they can do within the political system and possibly litigation on our behalf going forward. So we'll get back to you guys more on that, because that's obviously at the first and foremost front of things that need to be taken care of this week, since that's tomorrow they're essentially voting on it, tomorrow night. So going back to this, Jay, sorry to take away from
No, it's completely okay. Sometimes I need to be stopped. Somebody said on the last stream that I talk like I'm like on 2x the speed on a YouTube video. This is how I've always been. Like, go back to the very first stream, the very first video I did. Kinetics can vouch for this. Like, I'm always talking like this, especially if it's something I'm fired up about, then I'm gonna be like 3x the speed. Because like, again, it's, you have to create like a deduction model for yourself as an individual, right? Which is where you dedicate a certain amount of time towards education and towards figuring out like what do I want and what's the direction we're going to go, and then we got to get to action. And like I said, this is the first thing that I've really felt this excited about since we got going on all this. Like, I just feel like a lot of us got so lost in crypto. Like I admit I came in looking for easy money. But as soon as I started reading the Bitcoin white paper and figuring out what it was, I stayed for what I thought it could be. And there's been a false bill of goods sold to us all with not only Bitcoin, but with cryptocurrency as a whole. They slowly moved in, right? And put their tentacles on everything. So that now when they roll out these next big changes, you're thinking these are huge changes, right? Like, most people are freaking out, like, they'll never get my crypto. I'm not reporting shit, fuck them. But guys, they started moving in 2014, 2015. By 2017, they were already their ownership of the entire crypto market. You just didn't realize it.
Yep.
Most DAOs, most DeFi, it's such fucking centralized dog shit. They're like, some 13-year-old kid behind an anonymous Twitter account. Like, I'm sorry, but the minute that they start passing regulation, that kid is going to roll. That kid is going to roll on everyone's fucking data. CZ, as soon as they put more pressure on him, which is what seems to be the game, because they want FTX to be the big player. So as soon as they shut down Binance, which Binance will go away, mark my words, in 10 years, Binance will not fucking be around. But when they bring down CZ and he rolls on everybody, which he will, because you can just look at him and you can just see in his eyes that he's going to roll.
It looks like that guy.
Yeah, 100% going to do that. So it's like, it already happened, guys. You know what I mean? And now it's about, what do we do, right? Like, how do we respond to that? And I don't know what this is going to do long term. I don't really care, because this is like the closest thing that I've found to a solution, right? And if we compare that to other great things that are happening right now, look at this. Let me refresh this. So I don't know if you guys are like big, I don't know how many of the viewers are big on like overall YouTube, maybe just, discourse and crypto junkies. But outside of that, there's this whole thing going on right now where the same guys behind Mr. Beast and a couple others, the same guys behind 20 million trees, which was Team Trees that they did, I think, a year or two ago. And they wanted to plant 20 million trees around the planet. Well, they did it. And they did it through raising money. And then they all went out and planted a shitload of trees. Well, now they're doing Team Cs, which I'm glad this is finally getting attention, because this whole time, I don't know about you guys, but I've been like, when are we going to talk about plastics? When are we going to talk about the Pacific Garbage Belt ring that just floats, right? Because in Asia, I'm seeing it firsthand, right? You can see it firsthand in South America, Central America. Oh, yeah.
Caribbean too.
In America, you really can't see it, because America sells their recyclables to other countries, and then those countries dump them in third world. Well, I don't like using third world, so let's call it emerging markets. And what they end up doing is just polluting all the local rivers, which then end up right back in the ocean. Yeah. Most people don't know that that's actually the cycle that happens. So the US sells it to maybe China, maybe somewhere else, and then China just goes and dumps it in one of the ports that they now own, which they own many all over the world, and then they just dump that shit there, and then the local garbage just picks it up like it's garbage from the village and takes it where they usually take it. It goes in the river, and we just play this game. Yep. And it's a money-making game for them, but it's fucked for the environment and all of us. So
I was in Thailand. It was amazing the amount of plastics and garbage. They had these big there's a river there in Bangkok. I couldn't tell you the name of it. It goes all the way through Vietnam and all that. But they run these barges, these monster barges full of garbage. And I was like, what are these things? And you see them all day long going up and down that river. And the trash in Thailand is horrendous. Like that river, on the shores of that river are the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. I mean, it's just unbearable amounts of trash and plastics that are laying all over the place. And what was funny was I've been all over Asia and I've seen that everywhere. I think it was the worst I've ever seen was in Thailand, was in Bangkok. But I was in Puerto Rico, nothing, no trash anywhere.
Oh, that's interesting.
You were
just there. You were just there, right?
I just got back last night. It was amazingly clean. The beaches were amazingly clean. There was no plastics floating up all over the place. I was really astonished by that. Now, I don't know if it's because of where it's at or what, or I didn't get into what may be going on there politically with their garbage. But they did not, they had some very, very, even in their cities, even in their through for the waterways there, I did not see garbage all over the place. And I was very surprised about that.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Just to wrap up on this for everybody that's on stream watching. Yeah. So they've raised so far $12 million. So 12 million pounds removed means that's $1 per pound. So that's not bad. That's not a bad start. But it's like they're operating on two fronts. They're using these guys, which I love these. I saw something on this like maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, man, I hope that blows up. And here we are, and they're blowing up. So this is like a solar-based ocean cleanup boat rig that doesn't need people to operate. It only needs to be emptied once a day, and it puts out like this straight line. It's not a net. It only goes down like maybe a foot or two, and it kind of like helps all the trash slowly get skimmed to the conveyor belt. And it goes up the conveyor belt, gets sorted, and then somebody comes like once a day, depending on how bad the river is, and empties the cans, and then they put it back out. Now, the issue with that is that they then take that, and then the local government, wherever the river is, takes that and pushes it right back to the garbage system, which ends up right back in the river, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's like it's a great start, I guess, is my point. And in the second phase, and the second piece that they use is just ocean cleanup. So they get people on the beach with bags like this, cleaning shit up and trying to, I guess, recycle it.
So we haven't really gotten the okay to talk about it, but I think they're going to put it under their foundation. I'm not super worried about it, but Matt actually has a patent for their own garbage collector, plastics collector that breaks down the plastic into a fuel and then uses it as fuel to pick up more. Yeah. So it actually gets rid of these. I mean, obviously it's putting carbon back in the air, but trust me, the technologies they're working on is going to get rid of this whole argument about carbon causing global climate change. So I have a very smart astrophysicist who wrote a paper to Dr. Holdren in the Obama administration about how we need to stop listening to politicians on science, that it's a matter of trying to sell you carbon credits. The reality is that the reason that the climate changes the way it, they're trying to monetize it. The way climate actually works is we have this giant ball of gas in the sky, and we wax and wane on our what is that, our
axis
on our axis. Thank you. As far as the Earth is concerned, so some places get warmer and some places get colder as a relation to where we're pointing towards the sun. And he can show over the last 20 years that the actual poles have moved over 1,500 miles. And I've got this paper and I can provide it to
you. And let's all remember something too, that I don't give a fuck what you do to this planet. The only thing you're affecting is us.
Yes.
Period. End of story. It has nothing. Yeah. The planet could give a fucking shit less about what carbon form is on it or what the atmosphere is or whether it lives or dies. It's got a lifespan. It's going to go away one day, billions of years from now or whatever. And the only thing that matters is us and what we do to it here to make us live comfortably here.
Well, and the politicians are talking like we're importing these things. Oh, we're importing pollutants. No, motherfuckers. These things are already on this planet. We're just so that's
the thing coming from another planet. They're
it's here, like it's like we're introducing alien species to this planet or something and destroying it. Yeah,
it's all organic. Everything is organic, guys. Everything is organic. Now, what Archie said, I think it was Archie that mentioned it. This is a solution. I want to throw a solution out there also, Jay. I want to say, it was Archie. So one of the things, so the cleanup of this plastics is one thing. I agree. There's some really brilliant stuff going on out there with this kind of like a negative, or not negative, but a PAR emissions thing where they're picking it up and using the fuel that's all great and all. But we've got to eliminate the use of these things by using hemp. And hemp plastics are there.
I hate to beat this drum again, but
we don't have industry to build it, man. Yeah. And that's what we need to do.
Matt is actually deep in the hemp world creating these alternatives. So these are a team of energy specialists that have had so many things thrown on their desk, and they're only taking the best opportunities because they've been in this industry, the energy industry, for so long. And they'll be the first to tell you, I agree with Captain. Dude, have you guys ever seen hempcrete? people are in Europe, they're paving laws. Yes, they're paving parking lots. They're using it for insulation. It breaks. They're making plastics that break down and are biodegradable. Like, and these guys are revolutionary as far as that's concerned too. With that
straws that you could drink out of instead of them collapsing and
that don't turn into mush in your mouth. With the narrative,
and they don't hurt turtles.
Yeah. Get rid of the single-use straws. That's going to save us, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is that none of this is new. It's existed already.
100%. 100%.
And this comes back to the main issue at hand, which is, how do we solve this issue? And the only way to solve it is by first step harassing the people that you can harass, and let them know that you're aware of what's going on and that they're not pulling the wool over your eyes.
And that you will work to throw them out and put someone in their place.
Correct. Because that's step 2. That's the only actual step we can take, because not getting involved is what's caused this.
Yes.
I really like that 10K setup though. I think that's a good
one. I
do
too, man. I do too. If everyone's hands are dirty,
I think we find the ones we want and we drop that 10K on them and we go. That
just reminds me of the Dave Chappelle act from his old show where he's like, "Oh, we'll just sprinkle a little crack on them."
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but that just reminds me of that. So yeah, that is I think that's great, Captain. If someone can find the Ethereum wallets of all of these congressmen and representatives, let's go ahead and send them some crypto and make it so they have to comply with the rules that they're creating.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And
I really like these guys because they have like an actionable team. And so these aren't attorneys that are looking to bill with billable hours. Like, they have political solutions, which after talking with them usually end up being faster and cheaper to implement, is leaning on the right people within the existing political structure, helping us build as an industry a presence in that legal and political infrastructure. I think is going to be key, guys, because we can stand on the outside and yell all we want, but we got to have a seat at the table or no one's going to take us serious.
Yeah. And it's a multi-prong approach, as anything is. And it's like, that's why, to touch back on what we discussed earlier on, it's like, I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that, like, let's get serious for a second. They are thinking that the next step is civil war. They're thinking that the next step is get out the guns and let's just see where the chips fall. And I'm telling you, there's like 60,000 fucking steps before that. Like, that should always be worst case scenario. Like, there's two weapons. There's a gun and there's a piece of paper. And there's a whole lot more writing we could do on a piece of paper between now and when that forcible line in the sand, whatever that might be, occurs, right? And so, like, that's a very dramatic action too. Like I said, there's a shitload of stuff we can do now in the meantime. And a lot of you, just like me and Kinetics and all of us, like, we start to find each other, right? But what happens before you find other people that think like you? You think you're all by yourself. You think, man, it's just me who sees this. I see the truth. I see all these realizations. I see this reality that, like, everyone else is just choosing to ignore, or maybe they don't have the education to see it, whatever. But then you start to realize, like, no. And then you see a company like this, and here I was kind of having that same thought again, but on a bigger scale, like, man, who's really out there doing this huge game? And I was thinking about that. I didn't tell you this, Kinetics, but like probably a week before we talked, like, I was having another kind of like just kind of moment of reflection where I was just like, what the fuck do I want to do? Like, what direction do I want to go? Like, where do I want to be in this next big move? Because there is a battle going on. Like, where do I want to be? And I just made the decision that I want to be on the front lines. And I want to be involved in this to the best of my abilities, right? And then, like, a week later, we're talking about something completely different, and you drop this on me. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. So it's like, it does work like that. Like, the synchronicity aspect does work, but you have to have your mind there. So if you've got your mind on, like, everything's going to end, make a bug out bag, start trapping your rainwater, and, the end of the world's coming, well, fuck, that's all you're going to get. That's all you're going to experience. But if you start to, like, open up just a little bit, release the pessimism, get some optimism in there, then magic starts to happen. And like, there's people on this stream right now who just saw this, who are going and taking action, because, like, this was the next step for them. This was the, like, oh my God, I was just thinking about this shit, and a synchronicity aligned, and boom. And then there's going to be variations of literally every other response, which, judging by the chat, we're getting every other fucking response.
What was neat for me is that all of these coincidences, and I don't believe in coincidence if you guys know me, but all these coincidences have all coincided at the same time with RG3 and the conversations I've had with him, with Jay, with these guys at Mad Energy. And I realized there's actually people like-minded that want the same things as me, and we can actually work together and we can ally. I'm not alone. I was thinking I was in this echo chamber alone, and Wales and I have had this discussion before, and we're not alone.
That's how they want us to feel.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes. That's how they want us to feel. They put social media out there, and they've had everybody attacking each other. So where everybody is like clamming up into their shells going, oh, you know what? I'm either going to, just shut up, or I'm going to say this all I want. And then everybody feels alienated. And that's what they've tried to create. And that's not what's going on out here. I keep saying this to everybody. When you sit down with another human being, there's 10% of the shit you ain't never going to agree on. Period. End of story. But there's 90% of that we all agree on as human beings, what we want, the futures that we want to see, the things that the freedoms that we want to enjoy. 90% of human beings agree on, human beings agree on 90% of the issues. And 10% of it, we just are never going to agree on. And we just have to agree to disagree on those things and work what we can with the 90% and make life better for everybody on this planet. And we have to start local. We have to do things like this stream here, like us all talking. We started out with this stupid crypto stream, and just dealing with it's people in this crypto space, and then it's turned into something much, much bigger. And like Kinetics was saying, the things that are coming to us in the background, like world changing things that are coming to us in the background from this, that are developing teams of people that are coming together. When I sat down with Wells, Kinetics, and a couple of others in a freaking cabin in the woods, and we started talking about these things, and big ideas, not little ideas, big ideas. And these people that are coming together with big ideas are being handed this thing, cryptocurrency, to use as a tool to go out and affect the world. And that's what's really happening right now. And remember, guys, there are patterns in history that we can see where the world had revolutionary change, and that's what we're seeing again. And I don't want to get into philosophical or my faith and my religion or whatever, but there is a shift that has occurred in the universe. There is a shift. Just like you can look at it when you see the Renaissance. If you go back to the Renaissance, there was a time period in the world where there was a real dark period in the world. It was called the Dark Ages. And there were a lot of, physical reasons why that happened. And then there was an emotional reason what human beings were doing at that time that made it, the Dark Ages. And then the light came out, and then physical things happened to the planet and changed that outlook. And human beings came out, they blossomed. And that's where you've seen all this artwork and different philosophies and things came out of that. So there's cycles in human beings based on, the cycles of the planet and all that kind of stuff that is happening now. And we're starting to see those changes. We're starting to see people come together with a more unified message. And I think what we've seen in the past was that division and all of that hatred and all that stuff starting to finally culminate and come to a head. And now we're starting to see people talking about solutions and coming together and changing everything for all human beings.
Makes me feel hopeful.
It should 100%. We should all feel hopeful. Like Jay said, a little bit of optimism, right? Just put a little bit of optimism in your day. Let it just a little bit.
I like what you said 2 days ago, Jay, when we were on the phone. Like, you guys have everyone in this chat what was in crypto before Hex has all thrown $500 away at something stupid like Shiba Inu.
Some dumb shit like
Shiba. Be honest.
Or stuffed up your noses.
Or stuffed up your noses. Yes.
Yeah.
Why not make a small investment? Because here's the thing: we don't want a bunch of big investors to come in. We want an army of little investors to come in. So we have a base, we have a rally point. It's a lot harder for them to come for you when there's a bunch of little guys. They look like the bully, and we can punch them in the noses when they come at us that way. So I like the way that Jay was saying, hey, you guys just throw your minimum investment at these guys, just so you can vote with your dollars and say, I believe in freedom. And that's one thing that really resonated with me. And I probably just stepped all over your pitch there, Jay, but it really resonated with me. When you
I didn't really have a pitch. I was gonna say the same thing. It's like when we kind of wrap this up, I was just gonna say, look, like let's put this into perspective for a second. There's a ton of people that joined this community that got into BitConnect, got into USI Tech, got into all these things where they lost a shitload of money. You have done dumber stuff with more money. This is something that like we went through the phase where there was like all the promises, and there's still a lot of promise coins out there and promise projects. but they have one that's got something out there working, which I don't think we covered this, but the working product that they've got right now is the data centers. So this is a security, tokenized security. So you're getting equity in this company by throwing your dollars down. So what that means is that you can expect dividend return. Now they had from what I've heard, they've had to dumb this down a little bit from an SEC standpoint to actually get this approved. But from their own FAQ, if I just take a look down at the bottom, do I still have that?
Oh, looks like he asked himself by mistake.
Well, they'll be back in, I'm sure.
Yeah, they'll be back. They both
Are we still live? Yeah, we're still live.
Yeah, we're still live.
Just me and you, man. We got Crypto Junkie Show.
We're taking over.
I want to be the contrary on this whole thing and say, hey, do your research, folks. I don't know what the pitch is here on this. But until I read everything and find out who these guys are, man, I'm not going to drop a dime on it. So let's do our research and make sure that it doesn't, look like
we got 2 days, turns out, not one, but 2.
2 days.
Apparently. Yeah.
Friday night is it, right?
I guess. It's Thursday.
Yeah, I refreshed the stream on accident.
What happened there, buddy?
Instead of refreshing the page I thought I was on. So
yeah, that happens.
So you just refreshed yourself out and back in. Okay.
Correct. Yes. Thanks, guys. So yeah, I thought I had an FAQ on here, but it's not loading. So it might show up. I don't know. Otherwise, I maybe forgot to hit update on it. But basically, from their own FAQs, that they're saying expect 15 to 20% per year, right? Which I think is great returns for anybody to expect. So this isn't really a promise, is I guess my point. And the second point is that yes, do your own research.
So my point is that if you like what these guys are doing, so I'm going to look into it. I want to read what they've got going on. If you like what they're doing, then become part of it, because like we said earlier, it's about solutions. And if these guys are a solution, I'm down for it, man. I want to read, I want to know what they're doing. And if they are a solution to some of the things that are out there that are going on, then, I'm in. I could care less about the returns, to be honest. I've got great returns. I'm a Hexkin, so I've got good returns coming in. But if these guys are doing something, what a great place to put your returns. If you're helping, people who are trying to help the world and help society. I mean, that's
moving out a little bit of gains from crypto, especially Hex. Hex is a tool that should be allowing you to do other things with your life, which is what everyone literally has done now, from Discourse Syndicate and beyond. You guys all have gotten a tool now, which is money, and now you're going and doing things that you really wanted to be doing. And now everything aligns, so you're able to do that. So this is just another one of those things. I don't think it should be looked at as anything more or anything less, especially with like the price point that retail can come in at. Because for, I think, like the first 3 or 6 months, you could only be a accredited investor. So now you can come in with just $500, which is nothing. So anyways, you guys should absolutely.
Don't ever get that wrong. It is something when everybody's getting involved. It is something. And if these guys are doing something to make things better, then it's really something. So I'm going to take a look at it. I'm always down for people that are trying to make things right. So, hey, I got to go, guys. Thanks for letting me come on. I appreciate you, Jay. You're
thanks for coming on,
bro. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Later.
All right. I think we still lost. I don't think Kinetics ever made it back.
I don't know what happened to Kinetics.
Okay. You want to, we're like 2 macro guys now hanging out. Should we just be talking about other stuff, or should we wrap it here?
We can do whatever you like, man. Because the way I see it, it's all related. So to me, it's all one and the same. Because people try to pigeonhole topics, but look at what happens when you let them encroach in one area of your life. They then think they can encroach in other areas of your life, and that's the biggest theme I think we should focus on. Right, because that's exactly how they do it. They don't hide what they do; they do it in your face. So if you don't understand what the thing that they're doing is, that's what it is, right? Like, look at what they've done in the past 22 months, almost 24 months, right? Like, they've told you how to live because they feel like it, with no reason, no objective fact, proof, anything. It's just, this is what we say, this is what we've called it, and this is what it is, and that's it. And that's not okay. The question should be, well, how do we let this get here to where we let these individuals that don't don't actually have any background, because that's another funny thing. All the people that are telling us how to live don't actually have the background to make the claims that they're making. Most people don't even know that. Fauci isn't no actual scientist. He doesn't know anything about virology. All he's done is try to play in a lab. That's it. He doesn't know how any of this actually affects a human, assuming any of this is even real. Because I'm of the mind that it's not.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like 50-50, or some of it's maybe just I
highly doubt 99.9% of the population is superhero-like.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, look, I live in New York. I walk outside, there's homeless people and drug addicts and all kinds of shit everywhere, you know? So I know firsthand that this is a lie. Now check it. I run around the city. During that time, I had nothing to do because nothing was open. You know, I work from home. That was it. I would literally run around the city, around it, just to see if, because I had nothing else to do, so I had the time, and just to see if any of the stories they were claiming were true. Check the boat on the Hudson, the you know,
USS whatever.
Yeah, whatever the name of that white boat, that white Navy boat with the
big ass white boat,
wasn't being used. Ran by each and every one of the field hospitals that I could run to. I ran by each one just to see if there was any activity. All of them, like ghost towns. It was like I was in China in all their little ghost cities.
Yeah. Which I've done dedicated videos about China now. People don't understand China, man.
No.
Fuck. If they did, they would probably be thinking differently about just in general, you know, consuming goods from them. And
people are too accepting of what they don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 100%.
And that's the big thing, right? Like people just don't educate themselves, you know? And I don't know if it's a function of desire or lack thereof or what the case is, but you know, everything you do affects everything you don't do. And everything you don't do affects everything you do. So you have to be aware of what you don't know. And if you don't know where, like, look, what happens if all of a sudden these supermarkets just don't allow you to come in and buy food?
Yeah.
Just because. What do you do then?
Well, I can speak to that actually, because that happened out here. So unless you had proof of poke, then you couldn't actually. They locked down the stores.
Proof of poke. Oh my god.
Proof of poke. That's what I call it, because obviously with the algorithms we can't call. We can't be using the real words.
They're doing in my country too now. So yep.
Yeah. So like I felt that on a real scale. So, and we had contingencies and whatnot. But then what was interesting is about 2 weeks into it, we just said, you know what, fuck it, let's just go. Like we're just gonna go. And then it was actually, funny enough, it was the last day that the security guards were guarding the front doors, which just like a hidden piece of alfalfa for you guys and life advice is always treat the security guard really well, because you never know when he's going to be the guy with all the power. And I just got to witness that myself firsthand. So all the guys that usually get shit on, people don't give them tips. They look down on them. They think, oh, this guy's just like a parking lot attendant. This guy's dog shit. He's beneath me, right? That's how these people are looked at in America and all over the world, right? Well, all of a sudden, that guy was the gatekeeper to allow in or not allow in who he deemed fit. So you had to come in, scan your little QR code, which linked to the internet, to the online system of like the database of who's gotten it and who hasn't. And all of a sudden, that guy who had no power had all the power. So funny enough, the last day was somebody that I'd already communicated with, because I went to the store often, and you know, just always smiling, you know, just giving them like appreciation, giving them a little love every time I went in. And that was the same motherfucker who was there the day that we wanted to go in and get groceries. And what do you think he did?
Just let you right in.
He let us right in.
Wow.
Let us right in. And then what happened right after that is, because they didn't really realize how this was going to affect stores and stuff economically. So all the stores, they saw like a decline of like at least 50%, because that shit dropped so quick. Now the little like you know, the little cardboard cutout thing or whatever poster of like where you're supposed to scan the QR code and whatever, get your temperature taken, that shit's collecting dust. Because here we are, like now 3-4 weeks later, nobody's even checking, nobody cares, because they realized like, dude, we're going to go out of business.
Correct.
We're not going to make any fucking money.
No.
Because nobody's going to come.
Nope.
So they had to stop it.
But that's how you win. You just do not comply. And people don't understand it's that simple. You just do not comply. Oh, you want to fly somewhere? Good for you. Go fucking fly. Do whatever you got to do to be somebody else's bitch. But the right action is not complying with something that's entirely above reproach. Nobody should be allowed to do a reach around on your personal activity, period, end of discussion. And this is what people allow time over time. I do not know why they think it makes sense. This is why we have to live under the current restrictions that we're all living under now. People have to learn what's okay and what's not okay. And if you feel somebody's within your 3 feet, then you need to tell them to get the hell out of there because they don't belong there. And that's literally every politician, period, on this planet and anybody that supports them, because that's the reality. Look at what we're living under. Just look outside. It doesn't even matter where you live. The world is screwed anywhere you look. And this is a function of our inaction, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a turn for the worst, right? And there's been like consistent themes and consistent verbiage that they've used, right? Like Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, WEF, has used this exact same wording that I've got on the screen right now, this watershed moment. I remember that guy saying that probably 4 or 5 times. He said it right when they were doing the Event 201. He said it right around the Cyber Polygon, which they've run now for 2 years. In case you didn't know what's going on with that, is that's basically like COVID, but for the internet. So they want to essentially, I guess they've been running simulations on what would happen if somebody started to take down big blocks of the internet, right? And our access to that. So, I mean, I'm not trying to speak conspiratorially here, but if I was a betting man, I would say what's coming next is a fucking internet blackout.
For sure.
Because as soon as Klaus Schwab is talking about that shit and writing books about C19, you already know he was at the heart of it. Yep. And so here now we've got what is it, Mark Carney or Mike Carney, the guy from the Bank of England. Mark Carney. Mark Carney.
Canadian.
He now. Yeah, which is funny because he's the Bank of England, right?
Yep, Bank of England.
But he's a fucking Canadian.
Board of governor, but he's a Canadian, exactly.
Yeah. So, anyways, they got at this last little thing, which was the COP26, which was 20,000 delegates and people from around the world, important people supposedly, that all got on their private jets to fly there. By the way,
they got them to fly there. Yes.
Yes, right. They got them to put up $130 trillion. That's what they're gonna basically put up over the next X amount of years, and that is supposedly gonna fix what all of us simpletons and idiots who are using all the carbon. That's supposed to fix that.
Yeah.
But you see, it's not going to, because it's never going to go to those programs.
No.
The immunization programs in Africa never actually did what they were supposed to do. And I use Africa as a great example because they've royally fucked that country upside down with all the programs, the Gates programs and shit that they've done over the years.
But let's talk about the why though, Jay. The reason why is because people see what they're shown about Africa as it being poor, as it being uneducated, as it being this, that, and the third. Right? They don't actually educate themselves in the facts of what's actually going on. And that's the bigger issue. Because if people did that, they would know that all of these lies that are being promoted are just that.
Yeah. We see the same thing in crypto. Bring it right back to crypto.
Do most people even know that Bill Gates has been kicked out of Africa numerous times? Probably not.
Yeah, do most people know that Haiti hates the fucking Clintons?
Oh yeah, I bet they don't know that either. Yeah.
Like hate. They can't step foot in that country.
Yeah. Because of what they did in 2010.
Yeah. And so and it's the same thing in crypto. Like how many people actually understand? I didn't when I first came into it, and how much retail is now being, onboarded, and however they're being onboarded into crypto now, who also too came in just like me and didn't know any of the truth. I can honestly say now and reflect back and just say I really didn't know anything at all about Bitcoin, what it was supposed to do, where is its origins, what the story was, and what is it today, which is one of the most important things is what is it today. And so education is always key. With everything going on around us right now, education is key. But sitting around and getting into that space where we're just complaining online with no solutions, that's the indicator that you've gone too far, that you're off the deep end, and you're just in a space that's not conducive of positive momentum anymore.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. And this is why, right? Like you look at a lot of hexagons, and a lot of hexagons are now building, right? Because you've already achieved a lot of gains and whatnot. So it's time to now start branching out, diversifying your gains into the real world, and trying to cause effect, right? And one of the ways that we're doing that is by starting organizations or businesses that are going to generate income in the fiat side, right? Because the reality is that for most hexagons, nothing is going to outpace the gains we're going to make here, and that's just a simple fact of the matter. And taking that into account, when you take a little bit of your gains off the table, make them productive in the real world, fiat side, you then are creating two passive income streams now, right? You have something on the fiat side, and now you have something on the crypto side. So now you're preparing yourself for the future. The question is, what's next, right? And what's next is, if you want to be able to continue to do that, is you have to get involved, whether you want to or not. Because once you become a stakeholder in the future of the world, you have to get involved. Because if you leave it up to chance, that's exactly what you're doing. And this is one thing that people just don't want to understand. Look, I got to be honest with you, Jay. I hate politics. I've always hated politics. I was in the military. I know the game. I know it's a game. I'm from the third world, as they like to call it. I'm from the Dominican Republic, Caribbean island. So I know how the show works. It's all a show. It's all theater, right? And all of this is to keep people looking left while they're doing their dirt on the right. Because it's just a magic trick, right? We're going to tell you what we're going to do, get you all flustered, and the whole time we're doing some super shady shit behind your back. And that's ultimately what's happening, unfortunately. Because at the end of the day, it's just like what you were talking about moments ago, right? This gentleman, Mr. Klaus Schwab, is just literally emitting what his next course of action is. He's not hiding anything. They never do.
No, they don't. And I think that's part of like the laws or the rules of what they've established and what they set up, is that they have to put truth and the lie in the same sentence. They can't tell one without the other.
Correct.
So that's why you always see like the story is kind of right? Or what they say is a percentage. There's truth in it, and there's truth in it and falsehood in it as well. So there's got to be some sort of like, or they just don't care. It could be that. Maybe it's not so deep.
Well, no, this is what I always say. I say there's always going to be some truth sprinkled amongst the lies, because that's ultimately what we get, right? And this is what we see day in, day out. It's not even like it's a secret. Like, they just do that, right? And the question is, why? Well, it's because we allow them. It's really simple. We allow everything that happens to us to happen to us. And if we don't get involved, it's going to continue to be the case, because it's not about getting violent. It's not about any of that. It's about taking action and really changing the system so that there is no need to get violent, because that's ridiculous. Who has time for that? I don't have time for that. I've already been.
And it's like, well, also too, after that occurs, we're actually moved further past negative. We're in negative territory. We're past the zero line at that point, because now we have to heal our wounds. We have to reestablish communication with each other. We have to heal as individuals, together as a group, depending on how the division, how it all split up. We have to then forge new relationships, and it's so negative at that point. Like, we've got so much ground to cover. Like, you want to talk about a losing game? That would be the losing game, is if it had to get to that point, because you'd just be so far behind. It would set us back so long, when really, like, we just keep doing what we're doing, right? Like, that's why I have so much envy and love for the Discourse Syndicate community, is because, like, those guys since the beginning went out and did the shit that and really found the things, and now keep aligning with the things that we all wanted to do. And that's why we got into crypto. Well, me anyway. And I know a large amount, like at the height, our community was like 6,000 people in the Discord. And I can tell you that most of those people wanted the same shit. They wanted to be able to get somewhere with their finances, so that they could actually then start to make change and disrupt the status quo of things that really deeply bothered them. It's not a coincidence that we can all get on and talk very deeply about so many different rabbit holes. Like, each one of these could take weeks to uncover to the depth, right? and we can all talk like this and just pop in and out of all these threads is because, it attracts the same people, right? So we're on parallel missions. And that's something that I always felt strongly about since the beginning with creating this channel, and what we were doing is that sovereignty has to be at the middle of it. Once I understood what that actually meant, I was like, okay, that has to be at the middle of this. And that's like, we're on that path though. So for those of you who are watching, listening, that think like, man, all is lost. No, fuck this. It's got to go this way. It's not. And there's, like I said, there's 60,000 steps between now and the guns. So it's like, you just got to relax, let a little optimism in. And definitely, like, in regards to this project that we brought up tonight, do your research on it. And if you like what they got to say, if you like where they're going, they need more people like us to get involved and like raise our hand. Because the more people that get in, I'd rather see like, 10,000, 100,000 people get in at like a couple $100 a piece, because it's not a big barrier of entry. It's not a big loss for a lot of us. We've spent money and lost money on dumber shit. And if it does work, ooh, baby, it's going to be big.
Yeah,
and it's going to be
that capital, right?
Yeah, dude. And so they're measuring capital returns just off the data centers. We're not even talking about the Tesla towers or the 12 other fucking projects they've got going on. So like the returns, again, like it could go to zero as well, but the returns could be pretty sizable. I'm not really in it for the returns. I'm in it to help them get everything in position, because they want to get things into position, and then it's just boom, light switch.
Right.
Like the way you take over something like this is you move the pieces. And just to put another corollary to China is like, what do you think they're doing with India and Taiwan right now? They're moving the pieces onto the board.
Same thing.
We all know what comes next. Yes, we all know what comes next. They're in Canada too. We all know what comes next as a potential backup play for what's occurred already. And if they're willing to let something escape out of their country that could kill millions of people just to hide their GDP numbers, then anything's on the table for them.
Clearly.
So it's like, yeah, and that's how you take over something like this, is you get all your ducks in a row and all your pieces in position, and then you flip the switch, and then there's no stopping it.
Let's talk about one thing, and this is macro related, and it's gonna all tie into crypto, because that's just how the world has evolved over time, right? We have to take into account the reality that the way the world developed over time is a function of not really commerce, but manipulation. Now, what do I mean? In the 50s, commerce worldwide, globally, worked one way. Then all of a sudden, everything changed, because it became obvious that you could now move your business from one jurisdiction to another and benefit. So what then happened is that cost of labor became cheap overnight. This happened back in the 50s. And this, I think, really took root right after the Korean War in an impactful way, such that by the time the 60s came around in the 70s, people didn't really have, small town America was already disappearing. The last bastion that we had of that era were the steel mills, sawmills, and those types of entities. But even those now are pretty much out of business or have been swallowed up by U.S. Steel and Alcoa or whatever other competitor might be out there, right? And that's literally it. So America over time has digressed from this plethora of economic activity nationwide to now just some locations, primarily New York, Florida, some stuff in Illinois, some stuff in I guess California. Right. But that's pretty much it, right? The rest of the country is really dark with respect to economic activity. If you don't have some local utility, you're pretty much in a dark place, right? And it is what it is. But that's a function of what we've allowed to develop over time. And then that's this notion that everybody has to live in a city. Things can only be done in that area, in that jurisdiction, in that way, in that shape, in that form. And that's just false. There is so much land on this earth that it is kind of preposterous to me now as an adult that we allowed ourselves to be put in these essential cages, right? Like an apartment building is a cage. You can't, like, if something happens, you're screwed. You're not escaping. You're lucky if you can get out the door of your apartment if something actually starts happening.
Yeah.
To the effect of the structure being damaged or whatever the case is. Any natural disaster is what I'm trying to refer to. Right? Like you're screwed. You're not escaping. So you're essentially a trapped rat to a certain degree because you're in a cage. And once that cage starts rattling and it starts toppling and it starts wobbling, well, that's it. How do you get out of there in time in order to save yourself? It's almost impossible, depending on the structure of the building and whatnot. Like I live in a pretty open one, which for me it would be relatively easy, but that's not the case for most apartment buildings. And that's just one nexus. What about if you work in a city, but you live outside the city? Like one time in 2010 or 11, I can't remember when it was. I'm pretty sure it was 11 actually. There was an earthquake in New York. I was working on like the 10th or 14th floor. I don't even remember. But what if that building would have collapsed? No way out. I was on the 15th, 16th floor or something like that. Middle of Manhattan. Just pancake. That just would have been the end of that. So it's these things that most people just don't think about. How do we put ourselves in these situations that literally make no sense? It doesn't make sense for us to have to rely on some entity that can determine whether we can or cannot eat in order to eat. I mean, we work to survive, and then our work is taxed, not once, but as many times as possible, because we're asleep at the wheel. That's honestly the reason why. We have to realize that this is the actuality of what's happening. So until we actually sit down and realize that we're the problem and that we have to get involved, because I'm going to tell you again, Jay, I hate politics, but I got to tell you, I hate it because I understood what it was. Not realizing that I hated it because I wasn't involved in devoting my time and efforts to maybe helping others see that there's a problem here. And the problem is bigger than all of us. Right? Because how is it that this small cohort of people can determine what happens globally?
Yeah, it really is weird. Like the more you dive into it, the more you start to ask questions, going all the way back to like education and, definitely where you're being educated across the United States and across the world led directly to your worldviews, your beliefs, everything, how you saw everything. And it's crazy to think just how attached and associated those things are to each other and to the central concept that we always talk about, which is the system. Let's call it, right? Let's go talk about the matrix, and we call it the system. Because it's all the same shit. It's getting you to think a certain way. It's getting you to view the world through a certain lens. And all of that ensures that they keep their grasp on things. And so it's like, this didn't just happen. Like you keep saying.
No, not at all.
It's been happening for a really long time. And we just slowly let them take this piece. Then 2 years later, this president on the other side, he took these pieces and put these things in play. And a couple years later, we got a different guy in there and he's going to save and fix everything. But nope, these pieces got moved. And it's just been a giant chessboard ever since, where it ultimately just benefits them. And it's not until you really start to think about this shit. Like, why is there a king and a queen in England, in the UK? Why the fuck is there a king and a queen? Like, just sit with that for as long as you need to sit with it till you start to actually realize that is the most retarded fucking shit you've ever heard, right? Like that's a real basic one, you know?
Right. I agree, 100%, brother. 100%.
You could get into much deeper shit, but just start with that one. If you're really struggling with all this, just start with that one. And and so this is like there's this multi-front approach that we have to take towards this stuff. I'm like really. The last probably six months been really excited and optimistic about like what I think is going to happen in the future, because it's like the first time I've seen now that I thought the timeline wasn't really in control by people that had good intentions, and now I'm starting to see that there's like there's like people that I thought didn't exist. I thought it was just me by myself, right? Yeah. I'm looking over and I'm like, holy shit, there's a ton of people actually over here. And they're actually, some of them way smarter than me. They're already way up there and they've already got all these tools and pieces in play. And now I just got to I just got to get involved in the ways that I want to get involved and help do my part to run this thing home, right?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's funny because it took me a while to realize also, I mean, so, given that I was in the military, I was kind of around for the early Q days and not to get all weird about it or anything, but
no, I dove deep into that just so if you want to go there.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing, but people don't actually understand what it is.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm not gonna get into technicalities, but after a while, I started getting confused, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" I used to follow the guys really diligently, and all of a sudden, I started getting confused with the information I was getting, and that was like around 2016, 2017, and I just stopped following everything. And then I just started doing my own digging, and it led me back to them. Interestingly enough, and the reason is because once you follow how laws actually work and how things are actually supposed to be written, you realize that everything pretty much is a lie, miswritten, written incorrectly on purpose. I mean, just the way, all right, let's talk about what we were talking about moments ago. Just how everybody's worldview is given to them. That's a fact, not even an opinion, Jay. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
And I experienced it firsthand. I grew up in the Bronx and then went to the military. And then after the military, I went to university. I went to university in a couple places. One of those places was in this school in Pennsylvania in Scranton. And I was one of these uppity schools now, Jay. Uppity private school, Jesuit institution. So you can only imagine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you can only imagine the skewed worldview these people have. I mean, I got to tell you a personal story. One time I was walking out of the library and some chick tracked me down. Like she chased me down. I'm here thinking she wants to talk to me or whatever. False.
Yeah.
False. Shorty legit asks me if I stole her wallet, Jay.
Oh my God, dude.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh my God, dude.
Yes, sir. So
that's so fucking cringe.
That's just one of the many, Jay. Right? And it's not even her fault. She's just an ignorant human being, and that's a function of the world she was given.
Yeah.
And I'm adult enough or at least realistic enough to understand that. Right? But that's the dichotomy, right? That's the bifurcation of views that exist no matter which way you turn. Right? No matter which way you turn, there's going to be 2 points of view.
Oh, 100%.
And that's the thing we have to combat with, right? So that's why, once I found myself back in that realm, right, it helped me understand that, okay, all I have to do is continue to push out real information, because what they don't do is that.
Yeah.
So I've used that ability to garner an audience, because I've always had the ability to find real information, because it's out there. It's not like it's hidden. Right. And like, even if you watch any of my streams, you'll see I will literally sit there, YouTube some shit in front of or Google search or DuckDuckGo or whatever, literally do my real time search so people can see that they can also find this real information. It is not hidden. Whatever we want to find out, we can. And most people don't realize that's the case. And I think that's the bigger issue, because people are used to doing what they're used to doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big issue, because we get pigeonholed early on, right? Because, what are you going to do with your life? What do you want to be when you grow up? There shouldn't be a limit. You should be able to explore and do whatever you want. But that's not what they want people to think, you see? So it's this the way everything is designed and structured. I mean, look, in New York, just so you know, public school system, all the buildings inside look like any jailhouse, just like any prison you've been to. Exactly the same.
Yeah, bars on the windows.
No. I mean, just the infrastructure inside, just the way it looks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
It might have lockers, it might not. The classrooms will still be the classrooms, but even inside, the tile will be the same tile they use in New York State prisons.
That's interesting, hey, because they're already guiding.
Correct.
That's where they want everyone to head.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Nothing is by coincidence. Oh yeah. Oh yes, sir. There's a lot that I know because I've been amongst most worlds. You see, when you're poor and you're trying to get out of being poor, you have to try to elevate yourself, learn how to behave in other environments, and that has allowed me to learn other things that and what I've learned is that most people just don't have a clue, because again, we're given our worldview. We don't cross lines. We don't. So this is why I've taken it upon myself to, even though I still live in the Bronx, I live in the hood, literally. I'm a person that would normally not even talk to people. But the fact of the matter is, if we're done being shitted on, and I know I am, because I fought for this country. I know the oath that I took. I'm ready to go pop a shot right now. But the fact of the matter is that that's not the way things work. Yeah. Nothing comes from that. Yeah. What has to happen is that people have to see exactly what the problem is, because people don't believe there's a problem. But there clearly is one. When you look outside and you think to yourself, well, man, my life is all right, but why does everybody else's suck? That shouldn't be the case.
Yep. Yep. And you see that huge disconnect in crypto all the time.
All the time.
It's just like you log on to crypto Twitter and everyone's playing this game called, we know what's going on, but we're going to pretend it's not going on. And that's it. That's all it is. And so they're back to NFTs. Back to shit coins, back to shit posting. It doesn't exist. Remember, like block it out, block it out, block it out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people do. You know, I used to do it too, right?
Yeah, I think we all did. We all
do it to a certain extent. That's the thing. Yeah. And you know, maturity comes from the realization that you know nothing and that you must keep an open mind. Yeah. Right. I mean, this is why we can sit here and have this conversation. And I have another story, Jay, that relates to what you guys were talking about earlier, about how if you would just sit there and talk, you would realize that 90% of what you're upset about, somebody else is that you wouldn't even think was also.
Yeah.
For example, my coworker, and I talk about this individual all the time. I love her to death. Black lesbian. Mm-hmm. You would not think we're on the same page. But guess what? She's a fucking hexagon, bro. We're on the same page. We're on the exact same page, regardless of politics, because at the end of the day, we all want the same things once we converse.
Yeah. And we're on the same page about the things that matter.
Correct. Yeah. Me and her used to bump heads, man, at the beginning. Oh, it was like two battering rams. Forget about it, because I'm all the way out there and she's all the way on her side. And the reality is, if you got to work together, you better find that medium. And we had to find it. And this is what I learned. And this is
great.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Man.
That opened my mind up so much, because it's like, wow. And we're both from New York. So even within the same environment, you're going to have differing points of view.
Yeah.
Right? Because I grew up in the city. It's not like we're not from the same type of environment, but we still have differing points of view. Because even though we've experienced the same prejudices, the same downfalls, the same traps, the same this, the same that, we're going to react differently because of our different makeup, right? And that's just reality. Mm-hmm. But even yet and still, we want the same things. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I think that's funny, and it says a lot.
100%. It says that, like, all this noise, this like 1% of voices that have been amplified on social media is not how people are feeling.
Exactly.
It's what they want you to think people are feeling. So we're once again back to the crux of the entire fucking conversation and the entire game, which is the system is designed to do what the system is designed to do, which is make us fucking hate each other and hate ourselves. But we all come together because we start to say, well, like, wait a second, you want happiness? Oh shit, dude, so do I. Okay, well, you want to change these things over here? Well, so do I. I'm sick of them, because they affect us equally, whether we're on opposite ends of the field or not. We're all being affected by the same system, by the same game.
Correct. I mean, it's really simple.
Yeah, it's simple and beautiful. When amazing things like that can come out of it, though, too. You know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
Eye to eye.
You have to be willing to at least hear that person out.
Yeah.
You know, and even if you don't want to, and that's the one thing that, you know, I think takes the most maturity, is having the realization that you have to hear other people out. You have to, whether you agree with their initial premise or not, because you don't know what else is gonna come out of their mouth. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's that little bit of optimism. Like, just let it in.
Yeah.
Let it in. Like, be open, right? Because a lot of times.
Open. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, the solution to a lot of your problems are right in front of you. They're all around you, right? You just can't really see them. You know, Einstein said you can't solve the problem from the same state that you created it in. Well, how often are we thinking about shit just like this big issue we're all thinking about? You know, we're thinking about just the problem, focusing on that, harping on that, and we're missing all these solutions. What I feel bad about, and what really sucks about this, is like how many people will look at things like Hex or Bitcoin or MAD, energy project or any of this other shit that we're gonna come up with and present in the future, and they're gonna still be stuck so much in that this is the problem. No, wait, Jay, you don't understand that they can't even see that this simultaneously is also a solution that we're presenting, right? Right. It's a way forward, right? This is a next step. These things, right?
I mean, I say this all the time, and I know it sucks for people that have to hear it, but step one is education. If you don't know what the problems are, it doesn't matter that you're aware of this one problem. And that's the one thing that kind of really pisses me off about everybody in general. Oh, now they want to talk now they want to talk politics because it's crypto related. No, fuck you. It's always related. It's always related, no matter whether it's crypto or not. It's always related because that's exact problem. I used to not care. Oh, fuck politics. It's all a show. Yes, it's a show because you've allowed it to become that. And that's what people don't get. You have to get involved. You have to educate yourself at every level of your reality. Whether you want to or not, because you're going to have a problem at one point in life because you did not. And that's the reality. I mean, come on, look at what's happening with crypto now. Look at what's already going on with the medical tyranny. Where does it end? It does not. Look at how much we're paying for food. Look at how much we're paying for fuel prices, for just energy. Where does it stop? It doesn't, because we don't. And it's that simple. And that
we just keep allowing it.
And it took me a long time to figure that out, Jay, because it's not 100%. Obvious. It's not obvious.
No, it's really not. And like a lot of, I feel like I get smarter every day, right? And a lot of my ability to be able to now thread together so many of these deep pieces and big pieces, I feel like I'm getting better at that every day, only because I now have like gone into those things to as deep as I wanted to go. And now I've come back out and had the self-awareness to see like, wow, all this shit is connected and here's how. And so when you start to have these deep realizations, you can eloquently talk about really complex things in a simple way. And that's what's like starting to happen with a lot of these conversations I'm noticing within this community and discourse is like, there's so many people now that have like gotten past these different stages or phases. And now they're able to see just how connected all this shit really is. Exactly. And it's beautiful to see, because now the way we can, some of us can talk about it is really powerful. And I think I'm finally getting there. Like my journey is pretty simple with crypto. And for a lot of people listening, they might not even know this, but I got in 2017 from this guy that owed me money that we did a software project for, because I was a software developer before that. And I thought, oh, this guy's hit me up to like, he finally wants to pay me. Like this dirtbag finally wants to pay me. No, he wanted to bring me in on this fucking MLM thing. And that was BitConnect. And so that was my introduction into crypto. And that character was Glenn Arcaro, who's now about to go down and get absolutely butt fucked by the DOJ and the FBI and lose all that $40 million that he stole from people. So karma has a funny way of showing its head too. But so it's like I went through that phase, then did well, but then lost it all in the bear market. So then I went off the deep end and thought, okay, well, I'm never going to make this mistake again. So there's something I missed. What did I miss? And I didn't know what I missed, but I know I missed something. So that took me, and that's when I went off the deep end with like macro economic pieces and just like honing in on that. And then as soon as I started really paying attention to the election, and that's when I started really coming back to politics, because I was in the same boat. I was like, man, fuck this shit. I don't care. It doesn't involve me. It doesn't affect me. And it's like, that was such an ignorant approach. Holy cow. And then I started to realize, like, Jay, it's all connected. Like, you got to see that. It's all connected. So then, diving deep into that, and that, that's when I went deep into the Q thing, the Q rabbit hole, let's call it. And many others around that kind of same topic point, which, funny enough, a lot of that stuff was stuff that I'd read. Like when I first had my success with digital marketing and publishing online, the first thing I did, like, I did well. I did over 7 figures, and then I like kind of freaked out. So I started thinking like, I need second passports. I got to hide this money. I'm not paying taxes. Government, fuck the government. And I started reading all these conspiracy books back then, right? Because that's how we got them. So I'm downloading all these PDFs, reading fucking thousands of pages, and so much of that shit is now true. It's unbelievable. And so anyway, my point is like, I went through all these different pieces and iterations. and obviously, talked about it along the way with whoever wanted to listen. And now it's like, it's all connected. So it's like, now here I am with deeper knowledge of crypto, deeper knowledge of macro, deeper knowledge of politics, and it's all the same shit. It's all directly related. Personal finance, dollars, debt, politics, countries, wars. It's all the same thing. It's all part of the same pieces.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and that's the thing people don't want to understand, because we'll be having a conversation, about random thing, and all of a sudden it becomes about something else. And it's like, well, how does this still always become political? Well, it's always political. Yeah. You just don't want to acknowledge that it is, because you don't want to, but it always is, because everything always ties back to what you're allowed or not allowed to do. So it's always political. Like, you just can't avoid it. Sorry.
It has to be, yeah.
It has to.
And that's where, like, the last thread I want to kind of dive into tonight before we wrap it up, because it's like almost 1 a.m. my time. No worries. I'm starting to get I got no water left. I'm starting to get a little tired, but and maybe we'll riff on this another time. Okay, there's 2 separate systems. This is the way I see it. And I want to give people this, because this is something that, and yes, Jay, transhumanism is the agenda. And I feel bad that I was involved in that, because I was a biohacker early on. And, I'm having conversations with Dave Asprey, who's like the biohacker guy, right? We're talking about nootropics and fucking this and that, and doing all this weird shit with UV, violet rays to heal the body and all this stuff like that. But we didn't know what they actually wanted and why that stuff started coming out all of a sudden in like this big rip like it did. But it's just because they want, RFIDs and the transhumanism movement. But anyways, getting back to it, is the way I see it is there's 2 systems. There's the law and the system under God. That's universal laws, that's universal truths. That is the oldest of old of who we are, what we are, and how we interact with ourselves and with each other. And then there is the legal system. The legal system was designed in a certain syntax and a certain languaging to not really define anything in the here and now. It was created to talk about past tense, future tense. It mixes up adjectives, adverbs, nouns, pronouns. Everything is all over the fucking place on purpose, because the minute that they get you into a courtroom, put your hand on that Bible and say I, and you identify as this bullshit name they've given you, that's the first hook. And that's when they get you in. From that moment on, you've already lost, because you've identified yourself as this social security number and this identification, right? Yep. And so from that moment on, they get to now point to all the precedence pieces from the past of like, this is why you did this and it's true. This is why this is true. And all that is because somebody else at some other point decided, yes, this is true, and we vote this way on it. So this person was found guilty. So therefore, it makes everything that possibly could be, conveyed in this sort of, or defined in this sort of way, also true. Correct. And it's the definitions of the words that start to become the trouble in the legal system. And so you need to know these things, because the legal system, I don't think, is inherently bad. It just rewards the person who knows the most. So if you know how to play the game, you are going to fucking smash. You're going to destroy anyone else that you come up against. Right? Because you have to just know that the words and how they're placed and what their individual definitions are, as soon as you know those things, you're ahead of 90% of the game. And what's interesting is within different pieces, like I started researching this because I went off the deep end on credit and personal finance, because mine was shit. Because again, talking about those stories, I was told that credit is bad, cash is king. And so, at the time I had like a 480 credit score, some shit. It wasn't even registered on one of the bureaus. It was like a 0. I don't even know how that's possible. How the fuck do you have a 0 credit score?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible, bro.
But it showed a 0. So, and it's a hilarious screenshot that I still show to this day. And so I started diving into this, and it was interesting because I started going through consumer case law. And what I noticed is that over here, they define a consumer as this. And then over here, they define a human or a person as this, and a consumer as this. And so based on what article of what law we're looking at, each thing is defined differently. So who I am as a consumer is defined differently in this little section versus this one over here. So I have to go and look at these definitions and what they mean. As soon as I understand that, though, and I know what they're calling me and what they're defining me as, I can then start to reverse engineer and put together a plan of how now I can make the other person look wrong. That's all it is. That's all it is. And that's also why, most lawyers, I wouldn't say most, but many lawyers are scumbags, right? Like how many times have you had a bad experience with a lawyer? Well, gee, why? Why do you think that? Because they know that they're playing this game that you think is real and they know is a crock of shit. Yeah. So you're not gonna attract a really high caliber person in those realms usually.
No, right? You're not. It's hard because again, first off, they have to be competent, and you don't really know if they are or not. And you can't actually judge because you're the one that needs the help. So you're kind of at odds just off the bat. You're already starting at a deficit, and that's the problem.
100%.
This is why you have to educate yourself. You can't rely on others.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the beautiful thing is like it's not that hard. Like that's the cool thing is like growing up, I was the kid that was supposed to be the fuck up. My brother was the smart one, and I was positioned as the guy who like always got into trouble. I guess I was the bad boy is what we call that, right? Mm-hmm. And I played that role. It worked well for a little while, and then I was just like, I just got to the point where I was just like, I realized what I was doing. You're playing a role, and nobody asked you to play this role. Right. And then I had to start making those changes, right? And the hardest part of that is going back and reestablishing new relationships and new boundaries with people that you've already been playing this little default bullshit game with for so long, right? But yeah, it's like the same thing. And so it's like if a guy like me can go out and research this shit and realize the game, see the game for what it is, then there's no reason why any of you can't as well.
Exactly. That's my mind frame. That's exactly my mind frame. Doesn't matter where you're from, where you're at. If you can read.
No, man, it's about like how much work ethic do you want to put into this? How much drive and determination do you want to put into this? And you just got to find something that you're going to get excited about within this next journey or this next direction you're going into, right? Some sort of thrill, some sort of thing that can get you excited, and you'll be just fine. Because it's just like school. Every single one of you to this day can tell me what your favorite subject was in school and your least favorite subject in school, right? And coincidentally, your favorite subject had the best grade, right? And your least favorite subject had the worst grade.
Simple.
I mean, it's not fucking rocket science.
No.
So the fact is that if you can get excited and find something that's cool or fun or whatever in what you're studying and what you're looking at, then you'll do just fine. And you'll wake up excited and thrilled to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, right?
Yep. I mean, it's almost like a nonstop dig, unfortunately, because at this point you're not in control, so it has to be. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and some of it's reactionary, which I think is completely fine. It's like if you get hit with something from someone and you weren't expecting it, well then, okay, now it's time to divert some of my energy and attention and focus to now tackle the things that I must learn how to do in order to now face this new battlefront. And align myself properly at this new direction. And that's it. And that's what crypto needs to do. Like, bring it right back to crypto is that it's unfortunate to see what's happening, man. Is like, nobody's coming together. Nobody's talking about these things. Everyone's and I'll tell you how this ends for most of these DAOs and these DeFi projects. They're gonna roll over on each other. Oh yeah.
And then they're gonna roll over on you because they're gonna give away all your data. Because please don't shut me down. Let me keep doing this, but we'll just lie and say it's different. Or maybe it was always a lie. And now we're just giving them backdoor access that we've all already had. We don't know that, right? We don't know how a lot of these smart contracts are written. And a lot of them are going to disappoint you. I can tell you that right now. Most of them will disappoint you, 90% of them. But yet you think you're at the tip of the spear. That you're getting involved in the most decentralized, earth ground changing fucking shit. And you're just in a promise coin with 18 back doors and ways to fuck you. That's it.
That's it, baby.
That's it.
That's a great way to end it, man.
It's time to get real with yourself and dig into this shit. You know what I mean?
Get involved to get wrecked. That's what it is right now. It's bigger than gains. Because you're not going to be allowed to keep your gains if you don't get involved.
Yes. So that story, I had it pulled up, but I guess I shut it off. I shut it down. Is the guy who turned $8,000 into 5.4 billion on
right. I heard
Shiba?
About that. Yeah.
Well, he moved 2.5 billion of that. Do you really think he's going to be able to just move 2.5 billion out of Coinbase?
No way.
OTC Coinbase Pro and just get that and not pay cap gains and not get fucked?
Motherfucker's the biggest target on the planet right now.
Yes. because they don't want that. They can't have that, because then you're literally in the same game as them. You're all of a sudden at the same fucking table as Bezos
and they don't
Musk.
even consider you a human.
No. So they can't have that. So they got to stop it now. So like that should put things into perspective for you. Like if anything, these bills and this shit, like what we talked about back here,
nothing but proof.
Yeah, is nothing but proof to what people like Wales has already been saying. He's been saying it a lot longer than me. You know, some of this shit I'm even just kind of like waking up to, like, fuck, man, DeFi is that bad? But yeah, you start digging into it, and a lot of them are really that fucking bad. And this proves that like they already know that you're a threat.
Yeah,
they know whether you're in Hex or you got in at Bitcoin at $50 and magically you're still holding. Maybe you got in at ETH at $80, $30, whatever. You are a fucking threat, which is why they're going to put the $600 cap on you, and in crypto they're going to put the $10,000 cap on you. That's it. That's how they win.
It's ridiculous.
Unless we continue the battle and we bring it to them in all these different fronts, like the energy front, like the getting behind different politicians front, like what you already see people like Kinetics doing. Like he is opening up the entire game and battlefield for you to get involved in. You just choose how you want to play. That's it.
That's it. And I mean, again, you know, Jay, I got to tell you, when I first got into this back in 2010, like I've been around since early days. I was I was too immature. I was only 27 at the time. I was young. I didn't know anything. 26, 27. I was too immature, and the way I saw the world, you know, I just didn't believe government was going to let it rock. I didn't think it would ever get past, you know, wherever it went, and it did. And I just watched it in disbelief because I just didn't understand the system. And that's the thing. People have to realize that if they're not here talking like you and me are talking, they don't understand the system.
Yeah.
So 100%. they have to sit down. They have to educate themselves. They have to learn. They have to realize that we have more power than you think.
Yeah. And it's just time to express that in ways that you don't think exist, or maybe you aren't used to, or maybe you're nervous to. But that's it, man. That's it. Like I would rather be like, here's how my mindset has changed. I used to like when I was a kid, because again, the system and the beliefs that I was told to believe is that you never wanted to be in court, right? And so the few times that I started going down that road and getting into trouble and having to show up to court, man, my voice would crack. I couldn't even speak right.
It's nerve-wracking because you're brainwashed.
Yes, I'd turn beet red. My voice would crack. I'd sound like, you know, like it's so weird. Like your soul's like leaving your body in a sheer panic attack moment when that's happening. And, you know, I was taught to like run away from those types of that type of trouble, right? Whereas maybe I would face, like I had no problem with getting in a fist fight with somebody, but like you put me in a courtroom and I'm going to shit my pants.
Right.
Funny, and so, right? Yeah, it's hilarious, dude. And it's the same thing that's going on now. And so, yeah, like, it's just that change has happened and occurred to where it's just like, I didn't think I wanted to fight on the front of like being so informed on things that I could verbally just shut somebody out due to my knowledge of their subject matter. Like I could show up in their court, on their field, in their game, and make them look stupid and shut them down with everything I've got in my arsenal, because I can convey my message in a certain way to make my point across, right? But now that's like all I think about. All I think about is study and look at shit that's going to polish me up and get me sharper, so that when I am called on, which I will be at some point, to get in people's face about these things, I can show up correct. Right? Because that's how that's me choosing, raising my hand and saying, here's where I want to be and where I want to play in this game.
Correct.
Right? This game that I just talked about, where everything's being outlined on the battlefront, right? That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to love every fucking moment of it as I see these people buckle and right?
Because everything they do is completely illegal. There's nothing that, like, that's the funny thing. Everything that's done is illegal. All you have to do is read the playbook that's already there. It's all out of bounds.
Yeah.
All of it. So it's not like there's even anything to sweat. All you have to do is call it out and it's done. Game over. I mean, right now, there are so many lawsuits, class action level lawsuits that have been levied against anybody trying to mandate anything.
Yeah.
That's unconstitutional. And the courts, the federal level courts, are doing, guess what? They are backing those defendants that are saying, or those plaintiffs that are saying, no, this class action lawsuit is going to say, you're stopping here. You're not forcing us to do anything we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And they're winning. We are winning because people are waking up to what's going on. So the people that are closest to the money are the last ones that are left to wake up. That's the funny thing.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%,
So
man.
we
And
do have work to do.
that helps reinforce a point that I made, which is that the plaintiffs and the people that are opposing the mandates legally are using the same set of rules and the same books that tell you the 18 different definitions to each fucking word in the same way that the other side used to use it, but now they're using it because everything that they're doing is unlawful. It's illegal. And so there's no case. All I got to do is show up with a basic fucking ounce of knowledge, and I'm making them look absolutely ridiculous.
It's not even fair.
That's it.
I mean, it's not even fair. It's almost like taking candy from a baby once you realize what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's not even chess. It's fucking checkers. You know, and we're playing with a 2-year-old, and you're a grown-ass man. So
all you got to do is put your nose in the book and see what is actually written down, because all they're doing is operating on the faith that you know nothing. And that's why they're winning, because so many know nothing.
Yeah. And even taking this to an extreme, there are ways for an individual to win these types of scenarios with poke provisions that exist right now with airlines. There are ways as an individual to even win that and not have to show any proof of that and not have to jump through these hoops in order to do it. And then on the back end, the quarantine aspect is you just got to pay more money, dude.
Yeah.
And that's it. You want out of that? Just pay a little extra money. And that's true in every fucking country. You just, hey, you know what? Actually, I was thinking more like a 2-day quarantine. And I got some of this right here in this hand that says that that's true. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's it, dude. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Asia, is because I like that all the corruption. All the corruption is right in your face, dude. We don't got to go to court and talk about all this babble and bullshit. It's just right in your face, and I can appreciate that. I have a respect for that because I know I'm playing heads-up poker, and they are as well.
Right.
And they're just like,
you gotta
it's very simple.
That. Right, you got to appreciate that. The simplicity in that. Exactly, it's about the simplicity in that. There's a certain level of simplicity and elegance, and even if it is corruption, right, it's still negotiable, right? It's still 100%. Negotiable. Anything is on the table, and that's actually a fun game to be able to play. So it makes life even a little more interesting.
It is, yeah.
In reality,
because then
have to pay money for a favor, right?
No, it comes back to, what does this guy want? What are his goals? Exactly. What are his aspirations? And how can I align myself with that on the fly right here, right now, and get this guy to be my buddy and do something for me that he is actually told not to do. He knows he could get his ass fucking fired for doing this, and I'm about to ask him to do it anyway. How do I win that? Exactly. So it's like that's the bigger game, and that is a lot of fun. I have to tell you, that is fucking
I agree.
fun.
I mean, I got a big smile on my face just thinking about it now, because what else do we have? I mean, right now, that's what we've been relegated to.
Yeah.
That's what we've been relegated to right now, right? It wasn't like that before, but now no matter where we're at in the world, that's what we all have to do, because that's the new reality. Right?
That is the new game, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we're at. So
it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Cool, man. Well, let's end it there. Let me hard cut this here, because I'm starting to kind of lose my voice. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been epic, and I hope you come on again. We can chat.
Man. Anytime,
and go deeper into other things. In the chat, throw up some hearts, throw up some thumbs up, throw up some F's, T's, whatever letter you like, and like this and share it around if you want to help us grow this community, because this is where we're at, man. Like, we're gonna dig our heels in. If you've been around and checked out the channel and know my background and whatnot, you already know that I'm gonna go out and do my research on this, and we're gonna keep shooting some videos on this. Like, this was first introductory. I want to go and now put together a video piece, and be able to tell the story better than what we did on the stream. And then expect that to come out on the channel, and we're gonna keep Like, because we're open to these things, now these things are starting to show up, you see? So guess what? What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to stay open to these things. We're all going to stay open to these things. And more of this shit is going to show up like mad. And we're going to keep knocking these down and presenting these and bringing these to you. If you want to get involved, great. If you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah.
No sweat off my back.
Either way, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, right?
No
So it's all about who do we want to support, who do we want to back. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know for a lot of you, you've been now watching streams for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you so much from jumping over and checking us out. Subscribe if you like this. There is a lot of crossover between Discourse and this, and we hope that continues. And Wales, thank you again so much for coming on.
For sure, man.
Appreciate
My pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.